Hi readers, Chris here. Today I'm coming to you with a very special book review, and that is going to be Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. The reason why this is a special review is because I actually just completed a buddy read of this book with my friend David over at David's Book Reviews. David and I had a lot of fun reading this book together. It was my first time ever doing a buddy read with a fellow booktuber, which was super exciting for me. One of my goals this year was to do more buddy reads, and I'm so glad that, David, you were able to be my first. So before I jump into my review, I'm going to let you hear what David has to say, so check this out.
Hi guys, my name is David and thank you Chris for having me on your channel. So recently me and Chris have buddy read Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. This was a really exciting book for me to pick up, as I've always wanted to read Mark Lawrence. It's an author that I've wanted to read some of their work by. But this one was a bit of a drag, to be honest. It was a really mixed bag for me. I think I might have slightly enjoyed it more than Chris, but I tolerated it more is probably the best way to describe it. The book didn't really seem to have a overarching plot, like a goal. I mean, which you knew that there was a goal that the main character was going to go towards, but for the most part, throughout the whole book, we didn't really seem to have a kind of a sense of where we were going. You know, like, go here, get this, defeat this person, all that type of stuff. The way Mark describes stuff in the book is extremely unusual, and I did actually read that this is his first book, so maybe that's the reason that this was his first published work. And for that reason, I am kind of going to forgive him for the kind of bad experience I had with this book. But I am prepared to read the other ones in the series and see where this story goes. Also, the other issue that me and Chris had was the fact that Jorg, the main character, is supposed to be a boy of about 10 or 15. We'll say 15. And he has all this authority, and people follow him, people respect him, and he is a really strong warrior and leader. That is fine, but when you're reading it, you have to kind of remind yourself all the time that this is a teenager, this is a young boy, because it's written as if he was an adult. But as I said, overall, it was a okay book. Am I going to ever read it again? Probably, but in no massive rush to actually do so. So with all that out the way, let's just go straight back to Chris now.
Thank you, David. If you want to hear David's full-length review, I will be linking it in the description box down below, and I definitely recommend you go check it out because he is absolutely hilarious. If you've never seen one of his videos or reviews, you just have to. He's so funny. So, Prince of Thorns. Yes, this was an interesting read. It's a self-proclaimed grim dark book, which was another goal of mine, was to read more grim dark. So we have a young boy. His name is Jorg. His parents were killed at a very young age. He's kind of the heir of this kingdom, but he is consumed by revenge. He wants to kill the people that killed his mother and his little brother. He has a very strained relationship with his father, and he ends up like breaking a whole bunch of criminals out of prison, and they kind of go on this adventure together while he's trying to get his revenge. I was not a big fan of this book. I didn't hate it, to be clear. I didn't hate it, but I also do not love it. Do not love it. I had very mixed feelings about that one. Very mixed feelings. So, world building, characters, and plot. The things I always talk about. So, world building. I can't even say that much about world building because I feel like I didn't get a good sense of this world. Like, there are little details in here that make you think that it's a world sort of like ours, but obviously there's a lot of fantastical stuff in here. There's ghosts and necromancers and magic and all sorts of crazy stuff. So, but then they also mention that there's like a pope at one point. So, I don't know. I didn't get a very clear sense as to what this world looks like or what it's supposed to be, or even how it's organized. So I do feel a little bit that that was lacking in this book, which as a fantasy lover and a fantasy person, that's one thing I really, really love is like really good world building. I think of like Brendan Sanderson, awesome world building. You know what I mean. If you read a lot of fantasy, you know what I mean. So I can't really even say that much about world building other than there was a lack of it. And then we come to my characters. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, the books that I tend to like are the books that have really great characters. I'm talking deep, complex, layered characters, lots of character development, character arcs. Again, I feel that this book was lacking. So our main character, like I said, is Jorg. He's only supposed to be like around 15-ish years old, but he's like this super, super, super violent kid. He is a kid for all intents and purposes, but he does not act like a kid at all during this book. He does not speak like a kid. He does not act like a kid. He fights like a grown man. He does things like ripping people's hearts out like a grown man and eating their guts. And I get it. It's grim, dark. It's supposed to be dark and grim. But I also think that there's a bit of a missed opportunity here because if you're gonna make it so that he's only a 15-year-old boy, like, why would you not take the time to juxtapose him being a young kid, but also super violent? Like, I think there could be a really cool balance in there of someone who's a young boy and maybe acts like a young boy, but then is also super violent. That could have been a really cool, I think, a cool thing, but that did not happen here. And then we have Jorg's band of brothers, he calls them. I believe most of these people are older, you know, some closer to what would be considered a normal adult. There's only like a handful that we even get to know anything about. Like there's this one guy, they call him the Nuban. We know he has a really cool crossbow. But like the things that get mentioned about the brothers are very surface level, very surface level. I don't feel like I got to know any of the characters, Jorg included, very well at all. Yes, Jorg a little bit more because at least we know some backstory and history about him. But like I could not tell you, just having read this book, like one thing about any of the characters other than Jorg because none of them stuck with me and none of them made an impression on me, which was really disappointing. So, I mean, yeah, because I couldn't connect with the characters, it made this book hard to read. So that brings me to the plot. I had no world building to look forward to. I had no characters to connect with. And then, so that made the plot a little bit weird for me. I guess if I had to say one good thing about this book, I would say there are parts of the plot that I liked. I feel like this plot very much matches a classic fantasy book where you kind of have Jorg wants to accomplish this one thing, getting revenge. So you kind of have, he's going from point A to point B. And then along the way, all of this random stuff happens. He meets random creatures, random people, like random side adventures happen. But all of those things, like I just said, felt completely random to me. Like there was no setup for him running into a necromancer that he runs into, and there was no setup for someone attacking him in his dreams. Like it was just a bunch of random activities, at least that's how I felt, until it got to the end, or closer to the end. And then there's this one kind of twist that happens in the end that, again, made no sense to me. Maybe if I reread it, it would. But it's like one of those, oh, this mysterious person was behind certain events. And I'm like, who is that person? I have no idea who they are. They've never been mentioned. Don't know how they relate to anything. I don't know. It left me feeling very confused and just meh. Now, I did say I was going to say one good thing, right? I did say that. So the one good thing that I will say is that even though the side adventures and stuff is very random, at least some of that stuff was interesting and exciting. Like I mentioned, there's one part where Jorg fights a bunch of necromancers. There's one part where he gets like attacked by ghosts. There's there's just a bunch of different parts. There's one part where he kind of talks to a magical spirit. There's a bunch of different like random stuff that happens, and some of those things are cool. Like there's definitely, if you are someone that likes grimdark, you're into like, you know, blood, guts, and violence, there is definitely that in here. So at least you have that to look forward to. But for me, like I needed a bit more than that. I needed a bit more than that. Now, I understand after talking about this book a lot with David that it is Mark Lawrence's first book. There are more books in the series, and I've heard that they get better. I don't think I liked this book well enough to continue with the series, but that's okay. Maybe I'll change my mind someday. Maybe someone can convince me to give it another chance. But for now, I'm sorry to say, Prince of Thorns, not my favorite book, but I am so glad that I read it with you, David. I feel this is my second buddy read with a book that I haven't really liked this year, and it makes me feel sad, but that's okay. Maybe the next one I'll have better luck. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish reviews coming your way soon. Happy reading!